Okay, so we've gotten to the poor cultivated, the poor cultivated silkworm. The poor moth didn't make it. So next, we're going to go through the process of obtaining the filament silk. Okay, so our poor little silkworm, he didn't make it. She didn't make it. And in order to obtain the filament silk, the cocoons that have been stifled, that's what it's called when you don't let the moth reach full maturity, are sorted for fiber size, fiber quality, and also they're looked for any defects. Sometimes dirt or sticks or something have gotten in that spitting process. After the cocoons are sorted for fiber size, quality, and defects, the outside of the cocoon is then brushed to find the ends of filament. And then filaments from several cocoons are gathered together and wound into a reel, and this process is called reeling. The reeling is done in a manufacturing plant called a villager. So filament manufacturer, villager, right? Villager. And each cocoon, like we said, has has yards and yards of usable silk filaments that is known as raw silk or silk in the gum fibers. That's just silk that has not been processed yet. So this is where the process gets really interesting because filaments of several different cocoons are combined together to form a yarn. And folks that work in the villager have to carefully join the filaments so that the diameter of the silk that they produce is of the same size, that it's uniform. That uniformity in the real filament silk is really, really valuable. And as fibers are combined and wrapped into the wheel, sometimes a twist is added to hold the filaments together. And adding the twist is referred to as throwing. And ultimately, that yarn that results is known as thrown yarn. Even this thrown yarn has some specificity to it. So the amount of twist in the yarn relates to the type of in-use fabric that's produced. And the simplest form of thrown yarn is called a single. In a single, 3 to 8 filaments are twisted together to form that yarn. And singles may have 2 to 3 twists per inch. In the process of determining whether a cocoon was going to be harvested or we're going to let that moth make it to maturity, staple silk is the byproduct of cocoons where the filament is broken, where either the moth was allowed to mature and come out, or just in the process of harvesting, the filament is broken. These unsuitable filaments that can't be used in the reeling and throwing process are known as waste silk or chaff. And oftentimes these fibers are used in conjunction with other natural fibers, oftentimes wool or cotton, to produce another product known as silk wool. And oftentimes these are used for more casual garments. We've been talking about a specific species. We've been talking about the mulberry silkworm, but there are silks produced by other species of moths, and actually spiders. We'll talk about that later. And that is known as wild silk. And even when it's farm raised, even when it's cultivated as a crop and produced under the same methods and standards as mulberry silk, it is still known as wild silk. So silk that's produced by other forms of silkworms, they feed on different type of trees. They don't feed on the mulberry tree. They feed on oak or cherry or milkwood trees on those leaves. And they produce fiber that are much less uniform in texture and color than our good old friend, the Mombat's silkworm. And, the fiber is oftentimes brown or yellow, orange in color. silk from these worms are actually harvested after the moth has matured. So the moth busts through the cocoon, and as a result, they can't be reeled and thrown in the same way, and they're created as a spun silk. And tussa silk is the most common form of wild silk. And it's a little bit coarser, darker, and can't be bleached. Another type of silk that is produced, it's called duponi silk. It's a type of silk that results when two silkworms spin their cocoons together. And this yarn is really irregular in diameter, and it has a thick and thin appearance, very bumpy. And it's also, it often has a linen-like appearance. And silk fabrics, it's known as duponi, or maybe called shantung. So in fabric silk production, one of the descriptors that is used, the standard way to describe silk is known as a mummy. I know it's not spelled that way, but that's how it's pronounced, mummy, and it's abbreviated with MM. And it describes the weight of silk. And one mummy weighs about 3.75 grams. And fabrics are produced, silk fabrics are produced in several ways. The higher the mummy number, the heavier the fabric is. And some of the other terms that are used describe the yarn, fabric, or structure, which could be, crepe is a way that it's described as well. And silk fabrics are often graded for their degree of evenness, for their fiber yard size, and being free from defects. The highest grade that any silk can receive is grade A. Not surprising, but grade A refers to the highest grade, and really only about 10% of all the silk that is produced with a grade A rating. So even though the ancient cultivation in the beginning of the silk trade was, more than 5,000 years ago, really, there are over 30 countries that produce silk. So there is a wide range of types and qualities on the market, and there actually is even a growing fiber enthusiast ranks of people who actually cultivate silkworms at